Hey, hi, hello. My name is Grace Schaffner, and this is a virtual workshop on motivation. It's powered through AIESEC at Appalachian. So we're getting to that time of year when it's just really hard to motivate ourselves. We only have 1 month left of class before they let out for the summer. And if you're a senior, possibly the rest of your life, as the weather gets warmer and the desire to be done with it all just gets stronger, motivation might be harder and harder to find. But before we get into different ways to motivate ourselves, let's talk about what motivation really is. So motivation comes in two forms, extrinsic and intrinsic. Extrinsic motivation is geared towards external results and reinforcers. It's said to be less effective because it comes from outside the person and is usually in the form of control, which has a tendency to push people away. So examples of extrinsic motivations, extrinsic motivators are really like laws, which usually come with a penal system to motivate people not to break them, or incentive-based sales plans. Heck, pretty much every job is extrinsically motivated. Tell me how many people you know that would actually work if they didn't get paid. Intrinsic motivation is geared towards internal results and reinforcers. Intrinsic motivation is associated with very high academic and occupational achievements, and really there are 8 categories of intrinsic motivators. So these are things that all humans strive for because of the way that we're wired. Number 1 is acceptance. So you want you and your decisions to be accepted by your peers. It's naturally just something that we crave as humans. Number 2, curiosity. You might want to do something because you just have to know. It's like that kid who's told not to do something and they still do it even though they know they're going to get in trouble because they just have to see what happens. It's just part of human nature. Number 3, honor. So you have your own personal honor code, and when you uphold it, you feel good about yourself. Number 4, independence. You need to feel like you're unique and important. And so that's something that we really stress a lot, especially here in Western society, is that independence is a very strong internal motivator. So you see blue hair, maybe that's because I have this internal desire to be unique and important and an individual. Number 5, order. So we all have a sense of organization. No matter what this is to you, we all know how it feels when you can't find your wallet in the morning or you feel like you left something somewhere and it's not there, and it's just really frustrating to be not organized no matter how organization feels to you. Number 6 is power. So you want to be in control or at least influence something, even if it's just the power to make your own decisions. Number 7, social contract. So you need to interact with others. Humans, we're social creatures. We're pack animals, and without the socialization, we tend to feel like something's missing. And social status. You feel important, whether that's because you contributed to the group project or were just praised for taking out the trash. You just need to feel that you matter. Now, notice I haven't said anything about other people motivating you, because really, no one can motivate you but yourself. No one has the power to affect how you feel about something and how interested you are in something and how much you really want to get it done except yourself. I mean, they can present initiatives and incentives for you to scrap up enough motivation to get something done, but in the end, no one can affect your drive to do something but yourself. So motivation, however hard it may be to find, really rests on your shoulders, not your boss, not your teachers, not your parents. Let's face it, you're a big kid, and if you don't want to do something, you're completely free not to do it and face the consequences of that. You don't want to show up to work? That's fine. You're completely free to not show up to work. You just know you're going to get fired, so you have an extrinsic motivator to show up to work. So how do you do things that you aren't currently motivated to do? That paper for the history class you hate, the research for the workshop you have to have finished by tomorrow. People are just programmed to try to be as happy as possible, so we should use this to our advantage when we're talking about motivation. The first step to finding your motivation is going back to the why of what you're doing. Why is it important that you're motivated to do this? Why will this make you a happier and more fulfilled person? How does it affect you now? How does it affect you in the future? How does it affect others? Now, you need to weigh the consequences of the actions that you could take. So what happens if you just don't do it? What are the consequences? You need to go to work, you don't feel like it. What happens if you just don't? So, I mean, really, you just need to weigh the consequences of the actions that you could take. Because really, you always have options. The issue is sometimes you might not like where they lead as far as consequences go. So write down 3 things that doing this thing that you're trying to get yourself motivated to do will accomplish. So if we're going back to the history paper that I really don't want to write, I haven't even started doing the research. So writing it early will help me maintain my GPA. It will lower my stress levels after I've completed it. And it will also free up the night before when I normally just write the whole thing in one night and don't get any sleep and am miserable the next day. So, I mean, it really does benefit me to do it early. It really does benefit me to put more work into it. So that, for me, is a little bit more of an intrinsic motivator that I found, because I know it will increase my happiness level. So the next step that you should take if you're trying to motivate yourself is to just take a little bit and reset. You're probably in the wrong mindset if you're procrastinating. Let's be real here, you probably are procrastinating by watching this workshop. So I want you to take 15 minutes, take half an hour, take an hour, whatever kind of time frame you have here, and just do something that you like. Take an internal inventory of what you need. Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? Are you tired? Are you lonely? Are you scared? Are you frustrated? Okay, so do something about it. A lot of times I end up feeling really overwhelmed and need to do something to reset. So I'll watch an episode of something on Netflix. I'll go take a walk. I'll go hang out with friends for a little bit. It doesn't matter what you do. The important thing is that you let your mind and your emotions rest, whatever that means for you. It's letting yourself refill your energy and your sense of self so that you can regain some semblance of motivation. Because if our emotions are in a wreck, if our body is physically not there, if it's too tired, we aren't going to be able to find the motivation to do things because our physical and emotional needs are in the way of that. But here's a really important part of taking a break is setting a timer. So using your break to procrastinate absolutely defeats the purpose of the break. At that point, it's an excuse. Do you really not have the energy to go for a run, or do you just use that as an excuse so you can lay on the couch with your BFF Netflix? That's what I do. If you really are too tired, that's okay. You can forgive yourself. It's not the end of the world. Just try to do something that's at least in the direction of the goal that you wanted to do. Try going for a short walk instead. If you can't reach your whole goal, work on it for 5 minutes or give it just a little bit of effort. You know, sometimes this can kickstart your brain and get you really going. If not, you've just decided to start a good habit of at least attempting something instead of ignoring it and immediately giving up. Plus, you have a starting point for the next time you pick up your project. You can't say, man, I haven't walked anywhere for 5 days now, so, running is going to be such a task. Well, you did a little bit of work. You did a little bit of maintenance. So even if you didn't make any progress, at least you did maintenance. Step 3 for motivating yourself is just take it one step at a time. See what I'm doing here with these steps? So you need to break it down. I struggle with this a lot because I have ADHD and I have trouble breaking things down into manageable steps. I just tend to want to do all the parts of whatever I'm doing at the same time. But that's physically impossible. It's impossible to do the research for a paper, plan it out, write it, and proofread it all at once. And as long as I try to do this, I'm going to be frustrated and unmotivated to finish because I won't be making any progress. For me, research is really the most terrifying part of the project, which is kind of bad because that means that the first step is the hardest, which is actually true for most things for me and for a lot of other people. So when I started planning this workshop, I had trouble narrowing down even what I wanted to talk about. Motivation is such a broad topic. Do I talk about my experience with motivation? Do I talk about what motivation is? Do I talk about how to overcome struggles with motivation? I had a tough time starting because I tried to go in all 3 directions at once. And obviously I can do it all. I kind of already have at this point in the workshop, but not at the same time. So I brainstormed. I wrote down all of my ideas and all of the directions that I could take the workshop in, and then I decided what I actually wanted to do. And then I researched them separately. I broke it down into manageable steps, and then I managed it. Motivation is much easier to find for little tasks. If I can just Google ways to motivate yourself, it's a lot easier than just motivation as a whole topic, So step 4, set a goal. You're going to set a reasonable goal, a really reasonable goal. Maybe something that you feel should be overly easy to achieve within the time frame that you have in your mind. Now what you do is you tell your friend about it. Okay, cool, accountability partner, nothing really new. One of the oldest tricks in the book, really. But here's the fun part. We're going to add a twist to this. You're going to let your friend decide a punishment for you if you don't accomplish your goal. Let your friend be the overbearing parent who grounds you if you don't do your homework. It seems ridiculous, but it plays into our internal desires to please others, accomplish our goals, and avoid punishment. So have your roommate take away your TV privileges for a day and hide the remote if you don't go to the gym. Really, are we going to try that hard to watch TV if we can't find the remote? Tell your friend that you aren't going to go to the party if you don't finish your work and that they have to read over your paper before you're allowed to go to the party. You should really pick a responsible friend to do this, someone who isn't going to let you off the hook. But at the same time, it's really good to just have someone there to enact a negative punishment if we don't accomplish something that we really wanted to. It's a good motivator for us. Now, it is an extrinsic motivator because that means that there is a reward and punishment system that has to do with not just you internally, but the outside world. So although it is an external motivator, it's an extrinsic motivator, it still means that you have put forth the effort to really get this done, and it really helps with your motivation. Maybe you don't need punishment, but a reward. Like if you eat healthy all week, you can treat yourself to come back shack with your crush on Saturday. Did you hold your tongue when you really wanted to say something mean to that awful person who you happen to live with? Get yourself a little piece of candy. I mean, depending on the goal and your self-accountability, you may or may not need to involve others, but it's still something new to try if you feel like you're stuck when it comes to motivation. Finally, check in with yourself. If you're working on a long-term project or just struggling with motivation in general, it can be really frustrating to feel like you're not accomplishing anything. So me personally, I have seasonal affective disorder, which is basically a way to say that the timing of my depressive episodes are super predictable. From about November to March, I find it really hard to be excited about things that I'm normally very passionate about. So there's just no motivation to do even the simple things like go to class or do my laundry. And so I needed some way to check in with myself, some way to show that I'm not a complete failure every day when I didn't get nearly as much homework done as I needed to, when I didn't get up and exercise, when I had just 2 pieces of pizza for my food today. So every night before I went to bed, I wrote down something that I had accomplished. And it's so easy to get into this rut of failure. You didn't finish your assignment on time, so now you're behind on your work even farther. You let your room get really messy, and now it's so bad that it kind of smells like stuff is bad. But I promise you, you have accomplished something today. You went to class when you weren't really feeling it. You took the stairs instead of the elevator. You actually got up when your alarm got off. You finally threw away the pizza box that your roommate has been complaining about for weeks. You know what? Good for you, bro. Never forget that these little victories are still victories. They're still important for you, and it's still important that you're making progress in your everyday life. And I promise you that in some way or another, you have made progress today, and you will make progress today. And as you see yourself accomplishing more and more and attaining more goals, you become more confident in yourself and become more motivated as goals start to seem easier to attain. So I challenge you, with whatever motivation hurdles you're facing right now, take a deep breath, reset, and really give those motivation techniques a try. The worst thing that can happen is that you're right back to where you started. Thank you so much for attending this online workshop on motivation. I hope you have a very productive day.